well, I'd like to thank the Deputy Assistant Secretary for those great remarks. I think it was a wonderful way to kick off this event. We are very grateful for the campus tour, and we're very grateful, since you're all right next door and practically connected to us right now, we're grateful that Connie was able to join us yesterday, a class of 200 freshmen that got to hear about all the great things that the State Department is doing to engage students around the country for Diasporas for Development and the idea and the cause. Without further ado, I'd like to turn over to our moderator for our first panel, my dear colleague, Dr. Nate Jensen, who's an associate professor of international business. Nate is a political economist, and he is going to, I think, a very fitting moderator for the very first panel. The panel is entitled Diaspora Political Engagement, Media Challenges, Opportunities, and most importantly, What's Next? So I'd like to invite Dr. Jensen and his panel to join us here.
I'm actually new to GW. I just joined the faculty after moving from St. Louis, Washington University in St. Louis. I've actually never been to a conference that's on time. So I don't know if this is a GW thing or it's a Lizo thing, but I'll do my best to keep this on track. As Lizo mentioned, I actually don't directly do research in this area, and in some sense I would make an apology or maybe an admission, both for myself and my field. I'm a political scientist. And in political science, if you go back 10, 12 years, if you ask someone about globalization and the political economy of globalization, they'll probably start telling you about international trade, movement of goods and services across borders. And then they'll probably talk about capital flows, talk about foreign investment, talk about exchange rates. And only just recently in my field, at least in the academic research, do you see more discussion of migration. And then on top of that, you see more emphasis on remittances. But largely, it's sort of at that stage right now. And I love the analogy of the seeds being spread across borders. We spend less time focusing on the communities that have grown through these patterns of migration and change, and less on how that actually affects politics. And I think that this is a really great opportunity, not just for people who are already interested in this work, but to really broaden the reach and say this is really relevant. And I think the only thing that's perhaps not focused as much as this topic is also the flow of ideas across borders. And I think this is largely understudied, at least in my field, and thinking about how new information flows, how communities communicate with each other and people outside. So it's really an incredible opportunity to be here with a broad panel. But again, our hope is this discussion is to not just already talk to the true believers, but to broaden and say this is relevant to anyone who studies politics. But this is an important topic. Our goal here today is really showcase the panelists. So we have a few prepared questions, but the hope is that the questions really leave a lot of opening for the panelists to speak about whatever they want. We had a discussion of whether we should be talking more broadly about communities or not. So I'm going to just ask all of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, and then I'll have a number of questions for them. And then we'll do our best to leave a bunch of time for questions and answers.
Sure.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation to share some of the experiences that the Mexican government has with its diaspora here in the United States. My name is Vanessa Calla. I'm the current Deputy Press Secretary at our embassy, and I've had the opportunity of being posted now in the United States for almost 10 years. And had the privilege also of serving this very vast and diverse community here. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of the things that we've learned and some of the things that we would like to put forward, and also to see the ideas of the rest of the panelists and you here today. So thank you.
Okay, can you work? Okay, all right, so it works. Hi, everybody. My name is Harold Isaac. I am here as the CEO of Quisqueya International Incorporated. Basically, my story probably embodies all of what has been said so far in terms of the role of the diaspora and the potential for development, as I'm responsible for all the international operations of Radio Quisqueya in Haiti. Radio Quisqueya is based in Port-au-Prince and is run by Marvel Dandin, who is the CEO, and Lilian Pierre-Paul, who is the vice president. And basically, there are two prominent journalists in Haiti, and they've been for at least the past 40 years. And they're really involved in promoting democracy and fighting for human rights in the country. And here I am, because I'm also the son of Lilian Pierre-Paul. I've been born in Montreal, raised in Haiti, and basically trying to outreach to the diaspora through Radio Quisqueya. So basically, this embodies a need to reach out to the communities in Montreal, Quebec, New York, Boston, Miami, and France. And I'm going to be more than thrilled to tell you more about it as we go along. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Elmer Cato. I am the Minister and Consul for Public Diplomacy at the Embassy of the Philippines here in the United States. I joined the Foreign Service in 1998, and I have been assigned to the Philippine Mission to the United Nations in New York. I was a journalist for 15 years before I joined the Foreign Service, and my portfolio here in Washington, D.C. as head of the Public Diplomacy section is to help ensure that the embassy is able to project itself positively in its efforts to promote stronger political, economic, and cultural ties with the United States, and also to look after the welfare and interests of our Filipino diaspora here in the United States, which number about 3.5 to 4 million Filipinos and Filipino Americans. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ann Bennett, and I'm here as the Executive Director of Hirondelle. Hirondelle is a media organization that works to provide locally produced news and information in post-conflict and transitioning countries. We currently have 7 media operations in Africa, 2 of which find themselves at the center of the Ebola crisis. So we're media entrepreneurs that set out really to create viable media organizations that can be run and funded locally. It's interesting that our, sort of to echo the sentiments of the moderator, traditionally, our approach to our target audience, diaspora has really been sort of an afterthought. You know, we think first and foremost of the populations that are most affected by conflict and the populations that have perhaps been displaced within a country. But what we've seen over the years is a huge engagement by the diaspora that's been made easier by the technological changes. So I was looking at our statistics for web visitors to our Radio Okapi, which is based in DRC, for the month of August, and there were 1,400,000 visits with 407,000 unique visitors. So those are really large numbers of diaspora, and we're just at the beginning of learning how to engage that population. So I'm extremely excited to be here for all 3 panels. I think I'll learn a lot, and I hope that I can share some of our experiences. Thank you.
Great. So we have a couple of prepared questions here. The first is for Vanessa and Elmer. We're lucky to have representatives of embassies of the 2 largest diaspora networks in the United States. So the question to them is, what would you say are the largest challenges in communicating with these communities through media, and what solutions have you identified?
Well, if I may, one of the things that we always address when dealing with diasporas, you probably heard that there are a couple of Mexicans in the United States. Just a couple of million, that is. There are 34 million Mexicans or people of Mexican origin in the United States. That's approximately 10% of our population that lives in this country, our neighbor country, with whom we share very extensive and a very also unique dynamic border, and that of course reflects on a lot of the things that we do and that they trickle down when we are engaging with our community here. Because of the number of our community is that we have the largest consular network a country has in another one in the world. We have 50 consulates throughout the United States. And yes, we do have a consulate in Anchorage. I used to joke sometimes about it with my colleagues. But now, yes, there are Mexicans there. And we have a consulate that is providing them with assistance. So what are the challenges? Well, for us, of course, is the fact that we have a very diverse and very large population in the U.S. and that they also have a diversity of interests and objectives that varies. According to one of the last polls by the Pew Hispanic Research Center, approximately 75% of our community has been here for over 10 years. So that implies that the strategies that we have developed and implemented through our consulates has moved over the years. So for the past 25 years, we've actively and constantly engaged with them, more towards the cultural and the social ties that I think that has been mentioned here before, the importance for them not to forget who they are or where they come from. But we also come with the reality that they are living their lives here and that their life is now in another country. So part of our obligation now is to facilitate them with the tools and the resources for them to have to fully integrate in their communities without necessarily also implying that means that they need to sever their link to Mexico. And we've engaged with diverse programs not only to provide them services here in the United States that go from health, from financial education, immigration, information, of course, and for many of these things, we partner with local agencies, with state and federal authorities mainly. And we've also engaged the full federal Mexican government as a whole, not only the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There's a very interesting structure that we have. Within our Undersecretary for North America, the Institute for Mexicans Abroad is an independent institute that is the one responsible in developing public policy to engage our diaspora. So their function is to basically serve as a way of attracting all of the other informations and programs from all of the other secretaries from the federal government or federal actors and put them into place so that they can be implemented through consulates. So some of the challenges precisely have been in the tailor-made and the efforts and the different pilots that we've engaged over the years and to see which one fits better. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that for these programs to fully address the necessities our community has. So even that in itself can be an impressive challenge. And one of the resources that, of course, we've used over the years has been the media. That has been essential for everything that we do. Otherwise, it would just be rather impossible and complicated to reach all of them only through the tools that the government has. So I think that, and with this, I will, of course, look forward to see what Elmer mentions. But for us, that has been the main challenge, how to go through this pendulum, so to speak, of what the necessities of a community we have that now also reflect people that have been in the country for over 10 years and have very specific, have very different necessities from people that are, for instance, arriving in the United States for the first time. So that would be one of the first and perhaps main challenges that I would put forth.
As many of you know, the Philippines is one of the largest diasporas in the world. About 10% of the Philippine population is overseas. That's about 11 million Filipinos. Here in the United States, as I mentioned earlier, we have about 3.5 to 4 million Filipinos, making the United States the host of the largest concentration of Filipinos outside the Philippines. We're next to the Chinese as the biggest ethnic Asian community. We're the second fastest growing immigrant community after the Mexicans. Given the situation, the Philippine government has made it a point to assist our nationals wherever they are. And here in the United States, the thrust of the embassy is not only to extend assistance to distressed Filipinos, but also to elicit their support in terms of helping us influence U.S. policies towards the Philippines, and also to help us in development efforts. We have a growing involvement of Filipino Americans in development initiatives in the Philippines in terms of extending assistance during humanitarian situations, as well as in investments. So one of the challenges that face us here in the United States in terms of reaching out to our community is the fact that the Filipino diaspora is way off the radar screens of mainstream U.S. media. So given the situation, we are confronted with the challenge of how to reach out to them more effectively. So with this, what we did was to focus our efforts towards Filipino-American media here in the United States. We have a number of Filipino-American publications, as well as one TV station that's based in California that we regularly engage with. We provide them with a steady stream of press, photo, and video releases. We also extensively use social media. We've done this for the past 2 years. 96% of Filipino netizens are involved with social media, so we decided to use that to connect with them. And we also tried to embrace new technology. Last year we were approached by AudioNow, and we were among the first embassies to utilize their call to listen platform. We came up with our own virtual radio station in the embassy that broadcasts news, discussions, as well as Filipino music. And we are now developing a mobile app that we hope to launch soon that would allow us to reach not only the Filipino diaspora in the United States, but all over the world.
Great, and that's a great segue to Harold here. Harold comes from the private sector, and the question we have for Harold is, how do you engage listeners in Haiti, and how is that different from engaging listeners in the United States, Canada, or elsewhere in the world?
Well, this is a very interesting question because it reflects the importance of having of the diaspora per se, and how basically it has grown to a point that we had to develop services for them because they were requesting it. Most of our diaspora is living in North America and in Europe, and so basically, and I'm just trying to keep up with my notes. Our domestic strategy has been influenced by the diaspora, because as we were trying to reach out to them, we also have our own local challenges in Haiti to cover the whole country. And once we went through the internet, through the web, to reach out to them, it also became a solution for us locally in Haiti, because in Haiti the challenges for domestic service is that Haiti is, and what Haiti means literally is mountain land, and because of that, FM technology has a really hard time reaching out to all the communities. So by reaching out to diaspora through the internet, we managed to also reach out to local communities in Haiti. And so our strategy for the diaspora in that sense has influenced our business. And thanks to call to listen platforms such as Audio Now and their technology, now we have an even easier way to reach out to the communities here in the United States and Canada, and I know some people even call from maybe call from Europe as well. So so as I was mentioning, it created this kind of paradox that we have where solutions developed for diaspora ends up having a very big impact on the local communities. Now, as we mentioned, and we heard it initially, that we're trying to, it's not a one-way street. we're trying to get feedback from the diaspora as well with through surveys and through studies, and that is very important, especially now that these communities are really vibrant. They have they want to have a say in the political field in Haiti. They want to influence the public debate, and therefore they tend to they want to find a way to express themselves. The challenge, though, that we're having with that is that as much as they are like the diaspora will be involved in Haiti public debate, it creates a distortion for the local with regards to the locals, because the quality of the technology that they have access to is better here. And it influences the public debate in that sense. So when you consider that there's voice over IP technology that allows the diaspora to call in Haiti, participate in radio stations, hotlines, and try to discuss the agendas, versus the Haitian locals are unable to do so, to do the same thing, it creates this bit of distortion. The other distortion that it creates here is that they're more isolated in a sense in the host communities where they are, because they're connected to to our own domestic stations, and therefore they're not integrated. So that's where, like, when we do surveys that are relevant to them, when we do studies that are relevant to them, it allows them to be more integrated into the host community. So that's a bit of how, like, the whole spectrum of, or part of the whole spectrum that we're dealing with in terms of our business with regards to the diaspora and the domestic community.
Great. And then for Anne's question here, I'm going to be a little broader, because we were talking about diaspora, but also if you want to talk more broadly about the community, similar to Harold's question. But for Anne, you establish radio stations in conflict zones, which is fascinating and very difficult work, I'm sure. Are there some stories that you could share with us that help inform us about media engagement in post-conflict zones that would help inform this discussion?
Yeah. When we think about, I'm just listening to my co-panelist here and talking about engaging the diaspora in Haiti and questions of balance. When we think about engagement, which is ultimately impact, there are really sort of two components. One is content, subject matter of your programming, and then the other would be sort of technical and pure sort of broadcasting tools like programming. And one of the things that we try to do with our domestic audiences, as well as with the audiences regionally and in the far-flung diaspora, is to ensure that our programs are of interest. If you're not producing programs that are of interest to your target population, you're not going to get any engagement. So that's sort of number one, and really understanding through polling, through feedback, through as much data as you can, what's the population looking for? What kind of programmings are you going to get the greatest response from? We build these radios in these post-conflict, very difficult situations, but we also build media that we want to be market leaders, and without an exception, we are the market leaders in the markets where we're working. So it's really important to have good, top-quality, entertaining, engaging programs on subjects that are of interest to the population, and that includes the diaspora. So that's sort of the first thing that we look at. And then you're looking at technology. Are those programs accessible to the populations that you're trying to reach? And there's a big difference between, our first radio 20 years ago on the border in Zaire, which was Zaire at the time, broadcasting over FM to refugee populations, and what we're looking at now with a really high digital access and social media access that we're getting from all of our diaspora audience. So in thinking about those two things, there's two programs that stand out, I think, that might be, I'd like to share with you today. One is a program with Radio Copy in DRC that's called, in English the translation would be Congolese Abroad. And it's a weekly magazine that features the story of a Congolese working abroad. That can be abroad in Rwanda. I noticed that there was an entrepreneur based in Rwanda who's profiled. That's broadcast live on air, so it's the profile, an in-depth interview with somebody, a Congolese who's an entrepreneur or a social worker or an academic working abroad. It's broadcast over FM. It's also on the internet, and there's a lot of engagement around that. It's a very popular program amongst the Congolese, and it's a way of really where the radio is playing a bridge between the diaspora community and the community within the DRC. Another program that had a lot of feedback from overseas, a lot of engagement via the internet and the call-in was a program that was broadcast. It's every evening in Maui. Studio Tamani, which is a Malian broadcaster, has a program called Grand Dialogue, and it's a 52-minute debate program on a topic that's generally coming from current affairs. And recently they did a show on early marriage in Maui and in the Malian diaspora. And we sort of promoted this program in the run-up to the evening of the debate. And so people were able to send in text messages, make comments on the website. They could actually call into the program live. And then in the studio we had 3 experts plus the moderator and presenter. So that's another way where you're looking at a topic that touches Malian society profoundly. Early marriage has a big effect on girls' education and the ultimate contribution that women can make to society economically and socially. So it's something that needs to be discussed, and I think that it's something that touches not just the Malian population in Mali, but the population that's living outside of the country. And this was a way of bringing them into the discussion. And there was a great response. We count everything. We're social entrepreneurs, but we're also media nerds, and we try and quantify everything. So we do track the kind of engagement that we get on programs like that, and that helps us inform our programming for the future.
Great. So I have 2 more broad questions for the panel, and we can pass around the microphone here. But I think one is going to be an obvious one, and that's the challenges in your work. And maybe I'll add on to that if there are solutions or if there are resources that you need to overcome those challenges. So that's an open question to the panel of what is the major challenge that you see in your work. Vanessa, I'm going to call on you first, actually.
Sure. I think that one of the aspects that can also be very challenging is the fact that we still find ourselves having to address a lot of the stereotypes and misperceptions that people have of our community and of our country in itself. So a lot of the efforts that we want to engage, especially when we use media and social media and other type of discussions and forums, is to precisely address these type of things much more openly, and for us to discuss them as well with our community. And in that sense also, I think that for us, we see also the importance that everything that the end that we do has to lead to their empowerment, to the empowerment of our community here, to the integration that I mentioned before. And with that, we need to join forces also with other people who are whose objectives are also in mind. So, and it has been very, very interesting because over the years, and I had an opportunity to be in a community that was very conservative and that had a very unfortunately strong anti-immigrant sentiment, and then work in a community that was extremely open to immigrants, that had sanctuary cities, and they were very willing and extremely eager to work with us. So then it became an issue of how to manage all of these resources that suddenly you had. And of course, as you probably know, there is a very strong presence of media, of Spanish-speaking media in the United States. So perhaps in difference with other diasporas, ours does have a link in terms of their language with them, and we also have the opportunity to work with that. But I think that in terms of where we're moving forward, or where we want to go, is precisely to continue to engage in much more in much more current topics that our community is facing, and not only fall into the more traditional, or what is perceived to be a traditional consular relationship with this diaspora, just issuing passports or issuing some other type of legal service. We've expanded to have health fairs at consulates where you can get free medical exams, or for you to get information on labor rights. So, these are the type of things that we need to continue to engage more with them, and it's necessary to bring forth the media as well. And for them, and with this, I will close my comments, but also for the media to realize that the diaspora is not only a marketing or a commercial reach. We don't want them only to reach out to them when it's Cinco de Mayo. It's great that we can celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and I can go into very great lengths of why people celebrate it more in the United States than in Mexico. But the point is, we're glad that these things are out there, but there has to be much more content as well. They also need to be looking for their empowerment as well.
All right, thank you. Well, in terms of challenges for the business, as I mentioned, the distortion, but if we step back a bit and look at the culture, Haitian culture is highly political, highly politically motivated. People have great interest in that. There's constantly being struggle for democracy in Haiti, and the first flow of massive immigration in the past, say 50 to 60 years, was when Francois Duvalier, the father, like Papa Doc or Father Baby Doc, started to chase the teachers and any educated critique that would kind of question the regime that he was establishing, and they started to go either to North America, namely to Montreal, New York, Miami, but also in Africa. They went to Africa and France, and that started to build to build a stronger diaspora stronghold of Haitian. And so basically what that led to is that we had this political motivation, this activism that remained very, very vibrant throughout the years, because before, there was no way to listen to news in Haiti or to know what was going on. People were sending cassettes of shows first, and then they started to have hourly based stations where they would share some of the news that it would have in Haiti, and call in some correspondents in Haiti to have an update on what was happening. And then as things went along, and in 1986 when Duvalier, Baby Doc, was overthrown from power, some of the diaspora went back to Haiti, but a bit to their dismay, because the country had changed and they were not accustomed to the culture, and some of them came back here, and some of them actually never went back to Haiti at that time. So basically, despite the fact that they were away, they still wanted to know, and that first generation really wanted to keep in touch with what was happening in Haiti and try to influence it. So that kind of gives you a bit of the canvas of what we're dealing with in terms of interest into what's happening in Haiti. And so basically the core interest for content coming from Haiti tends to be more politically motivated than anything else. So in that sense, and to get more in depth into the distortion I was mentioning earlier, is that what we notice is that the diaspora importance in the political debate has grown over the years. With the tools that we've put at their disposal now, with call to listen, with audio now, with web streaming, with TVs being broadcasted on the internet as well, they're more than ever connected onto what's happening in Haiti. And the fact that their discourse has been always politically motivated, it also has been, I'd say, affected by nostalgia. Therefore, we have people that are really highly emotional, getting involved in the public debate in Haiti, trying to influence it, and this diaspora community has, because in Haiti, it's the way the diaspora is in fact perceived is as the real middle class of Haiti. So financial resources, media influence, and so a lot of that, and in a sense, it's creating a bit of a clash in Haiti. So the clash that it's creating is that the diaspora is really eager to participate versus the locals that are unable to have as an easier access. Right now, the problem in Haiti, we have a monopoly situation in the communication sector, where there's a big company that has a stronghold on the cell phone communication in Haiti, and therefore the quality and the cost of cellular communication has increased. And radio being the main medium for debates, for political exchanges, has been affected by it. So most of the time there is a search for a type of a balance into the discourse. But we also see it as an opportunity because as much as the influence right now is very strong from the diaspora, we just had a very telling example of how this influence has played out in the right way, because lately Baby Doc had been back to Haiti, and he just passed away about 2 weeks ago, and the state wanted to give him state funerals, like official state funerals, and that was not in sync with the sentiment of both Haitians in Haiti, or a majority of Haitians in Haiti and a majority of Haitians in diaspora. And by uniting, they were able to get the government to back down on that initiative, because it's internationally known how ruthless regime the Duvalier had in Haiti, and how they've written a very dark chapter in our history. And for many people, gracing them with state funerals would have been like an insult, and for many people, they could not accept it. So the diaspora and the local communities in Haiti have basically joined together to push back that initiative, despite strong forces that were trying to push for it. So this is the kind of example where this kind of alliance between local and foreign communities works. But that being said, the diaspora also has a very positive influence in the sense that if we get them, and that's kind of the main challenge that we're trying to get, because to address, is that we want them to be more integrated into their communities. And because now we're developing tools that will allow them to express themselves, we hope that will allow them to be better integrated and to be better spokesperson for us, and to try and influence, to be more organized as a community to try and influence policies towards Haiti. We're starting to see it, but we're trying to push further for that, because what's happening in Haiti is both local policies and international policies. And sometimes people in Haiti, their sentiment, and I'm trying to convey it here for them, is that they're not really heard properly. So that's where this struggle is. That's the kind of struggle we're dealing with right now. But last thing I would say is that, and I say that amused by times, but Haiti is the size of Haiti is 27,000 square kilometers, and it's a small island. But I always say, with the diaspora community we have, our frontiers have expanded way beyond that. And to the point that certain, the Haitian community is very strong, for instance, in Bahamas, where it's almost overtaking the local population in terms of size. And we always consider Miami, especially Miami and New York, to be, but especially Miami, to be a suburb of Port-au-Prince in a sense. So because of constant, there are many flights to there, and people from Haiti go, like those that can will go to Haiti, to Miami very often. They sometimes have properties in Miami. They have businesses, and also we're looking at a shifting ground in terms of what this diaspora is. And what they can achieve. So that's one of the challenges we have to deal with.
In the Philippines, we consider our diaspora as the members of our diaspora as modern-day heroes. This is because of the critical role they play in the ongoing economic transformation of our country. In 2013, the Philippine economy grew 7.2% and was next only to China. And this was partly driven by remittances from our overseas Filipinos. Last year, they remitted a total of $21.5 billion. And half of this came from Filipinos based in the United States and Canada. So overseas Filipinos really play a very important role in the Philippines, and the Philippine government is quite sensitive to their needs. In fact, if I may recall, in the 1990s, several cabinet secretaries lost their jobs because they mishandled a case involving a Filipina who was executed in Singapore. And then in 2000, I think, the government of President Aquino was almost toppled because of issues involving a Filipino who was taken hostage in Iraq. So that's how sensitive the issue of overseas Filipinos are. So the challenge for us is how to tell our story effectively, how to tell our people overseas what the Philippine government is doing for them. And as I mentioned earlier, it was so difficult for us to really penetrate mainstream media, particularly here in the United States. So what we've been doing, taking into account the limited resources that our government has allocated for outreach, is to be creative. And based on our experience here in the United States, we have not really been reaching out the way we should. We've limited ourselves before to just issuing occasional press releases. We have been reactive and being proactive. We try to change that. So one way of doing that is for us to package our information in a way that would be interesting not only to readers but more importantly to editors and reporters. I was an editor in the 1990s, and I received a lot of government press releases, and the problem is these are not properly packaged. And even if I see that there's a good story there, I could not really use it right away. I have to put it aside and say, I'll work on this tomorrow. I'll have to rewrite it a bit, so it's gonna be interesting to readers. But most often it gets buried with other stories. So that's what we've been trying to do now, is to package them in such a way that reporters and editors would have no choice but to use them. We've also noticed that a number of Filipino-American publications don't have complete setup. They're mostly publishers and editors and a few writers. So they need a lot of materials. So we make sure that they get those materials. And we've also noticed that the lone TV station that caters to Filipinos in the United States does not have a correspondent here in Washington, for instance. So what we do is we do the videos for them. We interview the ambassador or other Filipino community leaders and then just give it to them. So they've been using this extensively. And we also share those videos with Filipino TV stations. And then we also have to be experimental. So as I mentioned earlier, we tried to embrace new technology, and we've used also social media. We only used Twitter, I think, during the Boston Marathon bombing. We've noticed that Philippine-based media tend to call us every time there's an incident, earthquake, there's a hurricane, there's checking if there are Filipino casualties. So with that, we decided to just make sure that every time there's an incident, we just tweet that we're looking into it for possible Filipinos. So, and then they just do the stories based on a tweet or two, so we don't have to really prepare long press releases. We're looking forward to the mobile app I told you about earlier, because I think this would be one way for us to really connect the Philippine-American community with the Philippines. Because aside from the programming that we're working on here in the States, it connects them via Philippine-based radio stations that broadcast in various languages. So I think that would be one big attraction for members of our diaspora here.
I think in terms of challenges, I'll just focus on two, or we might be here through lunch. But with regard to engaging the diaspora community, really two things come to mind readily. One is that in working in a highly politicized and often insecure environment of post-conflict, diaspora tend to mobilize. Often it's the opposition or a defeated rebel or an ousted president, and then around that political figure, you'll have a community that's created. And when we do our political commentary and debate programs, it's easier for us to ensure balance on air when we have the participants in the room. It's much harder when those participants or opposition or opponents perhaps of a regime start to use the social media. And we've seen, we've had incidents of hate speech popping up on social media, and then of course when we try and redact those, there's a whole backlash to that on social media, attacking us for sort of manipulating the access to information. So it's a very delicate and very complex situation. That we are our radios and media are they're apolitical. We always ensure balance and of course don't tolerate hate speech. So that's sort of the first thing. Is you're in a very highly politicized and a very sort of insecure and quickly changing environment. That would be one of the first. And then the other is just knowing the entry point. So I'm delighted actually to discover that there are a few people in this room who might be that entry point, certainly to the diaspora in the United States. But when we're trying to engage and we want to have sort of legitimate voices from the diaspora, it's hard for our journalists in Kinshasa or Bamako or in Bangui to know where to turn. And so I think that's something I hope to take away today and be able to feed back into them. Thank you.
Great. So final question here, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. And the final question is, and maybe this is a little more optimistic rather than asking you about the challenges, but the opportunities of collaboration between NGOs, government, and private sector. And I think specifically, what do you see as the opportunities? But also, can you give us some best practices or some examples of especially effective collaborations? You're first again, Vinay.
Yes, absolutely. We have it's essential for the type of work and the type of work that we would like to continue to engage with, to partner with NGOs and to partner with academic institutions, with the private sector, with these key actors that are able to assist us, and that we basically share the same objectives with them as well. We just achieve them through different routes, but we're practically looking for the same. One of the very positive experiences that we've had recently involves also one of our most prized results that we've achieved also in this change that I was sharing with you in terms of how we are reaching our community. So last year we launched our application, our consular application called Mi Consul Mex, which is basically just roughly saying Mexican consulate in a short hashtag way. And the idea was just to basically put the information out there to members of our community to what our consulate is, the type of services it provides, the very basic but also the very complete and broad services and programs that we have. When President Obama announced the deferral of action for childhood arrivals, DACA, we have been working with many of the dreamer groups already in the United States. So when the stipulations came for this particular issue, what we did is used the information that we had and the context that we had, not only through the media outlets of the consulates in itself, but also of the very vast community network that we have through each community with Mexican community leaders, with religious organizations, etc., to put the message out there and not only to inform them what DACA was going to imply, but also what it didn't imply, because immigration fraud was going to be, we could see it, that it could really become an issue for members of our community. So we partner a lot with many of the dreamer national and local organizations throughout the country, and we eventually started to feed this information to our app. So if you were able, if you have questions regarding your eligibility for this program, you could, of course, go to the consulate, go to one of our partners' NGOs and ask them about it, or you can access that information through the app. This app has been downloaded a little bit over 100,000 times now, which has made us very, very proud, since it just practically became an idea in someone's office here at 1911 Pennsylvania Avenue, and with a very basic tools we were able to put it out there, but we were learning from other tools and other apps that are out there targeting diaspora that we want to, of course, to increase it and to enrich it. And even now, with possibly further initiatives or actions that are going to be involving the immigration subject, which, as you can imagine, is also very important for a lot of the members of our community here. We need to access also these tools. So smartphones will definitely play a part, and also in the sense of not only working with these organizations, but also seeing how we can be of assistance with the organization of NALEO as well, which is the National Association for Latino Elected Officials. We're also going to be engaging in an interesting campaign to promote citizenship in members of our community. There's approximately, I think it's 3.5 million Mexicans that have green cards that are eligible to acquire the U.S. citizenship, and a lot of the things that we are trying to assist is to let them know what are the process now if they do want to acquire the U.S. citizenship. Mexico accepts double citizenship since 1998. And it's something that we're always constantly trying to inform. So yes, I do see many, many more opportunities. We're very excited. I think that's the part that is most exciting about working with the Mexican community here and through our consulates, because there are just so many opportunities, so many potential actors that we can work with that we're definitely excited about the possibility.
Well, in terms of opportunity that the diaspora is for Haiti, is like, I think it talks about the immediate moment and about the near future as well. The reason is, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the diaspora is considered and is in fact the actual real middle class in Haiti. And that being said, they are sending massive, and for our scale in Haiti, they're sending massive amounts of money. In Haiti, it's estimated they're sending about $2 billion a year in Haiti, and it's increasing. So in that sense, it creates a lot of interest, a lot of business opportunities, and the problem that and opportunity that we're looking at is that the diaspora, the Haitian diaspora, needs to be more organized. So one of the things that happened is we're not, like, as the private sector or as a representative of the private sector, we're not the only ones seeing that there is an opportunity. The government in Haiti also has seen that and started putting regulation in place to start taxing the Haitian communities abroad. And it's targeted mainly at them by taxing, collecting taxes on international phone calls to Haiti, inbound phone calls in Haiti and to remittances. And that has created a lot of frustration in Haiti. And the reason why it has, for the Haitian communities in the diaspora and in Haiti, but the reason why it frustrates the Haitian communities abroad, it's because they feel a bit like here, apparently in D.C., I think the slogan is taxation without representation. So we have the same thing. And, well, I'm considered to be now like a member of Diaspora as well, and I can echo the sentiment in the sense that a lot of Haitians are like thinking about this problem as always requested that they have some sort of representation in Haitian Parliament, which has its own challenges within the Haitian Constitution, which doesn't allow it yet. They've been pushing for reform. Constitution has been reformed, but that is quote-unquote because there's still struggles, and now we'll land directly in big political struggle in Haiti because of that. So clearly, the opportunities will lay in regulation and what's going to happen to in future regulations in Haiti and abroad. Because I talked about representation in Haiti, but the Haitian diaspora is not a rich community, despite the fact that it is the middle class of Haiti. It tends to be one of the poorest communities in their host communities, regardless of being in Miami or New York or throughout the East Coast, Montreal, or in France. They always tend to be at the bottom of the ladder, and many people in think groups have been considering that they should probably also be more active in their political representation in their host communities to try to influence policies to allow them to have, a lesser burden on their shoulders, because these communities are supporting communities in Haiti. So that means they're sacrificing their own resources here to support families and friends in Haiti. And if you ask any economist, they'll tell you it's not the best way to spend the money, in the sense that sending money for expenditures for basic needs. It will be considered more of an expense than like an investment, because if they had bought, like, let's say, state funds in Haiti, that would have probably, or bonds in Haiti, that would have probably been more efficient on the long run, because most of the time the money doesn't stay in Haiti, it goes back out, because people will import things, will massively import everything in Haiti. So in that sense, what we're looking at is a void in terms of regulation to allow the money to properly be invested in Haiti and to allow growth in Haiti. So in that sense, that's why the lack of organization, due to the fact that and it's due to the fact that most of the members of that community are struggling to keep up. They have to do 2-3 jobs, so they don't even have time to consider all these aspects. So they're just struggling to survive and try to send something to their family, and they're echoing their political sentiment about things. So they want to stay connected. They want to be updated about what's going on in Haiti. So they're always taken, always busy, no time to even step back to say, okay, what are we going to do? So that really weakens the community in the sense. So that's why, I don't look at the dark side of that. I think that my generation, because my anecdote is, and I always tend to tell people, is that 15 years ago, I would not have been able to have that discussion with you. Because 15 years ago, I did not speak English well enough to understand or to speak to you. So I think many people that are either watching this or that are here maybe could relate to that. But in a sense, I believe my generation and the generation that comes afterwards will have the opportunity to take on the lead and to be better integrated in the communities, their host communities, and influence policies in a sense that will improve the quality of life for their peers in Haiti. So that's what we're looking at. And the good news is that I'm not the only one to have followed that path. Many of my friends are that have been raised with in Haiti are in the big centers of the world. They have friends that work directly in Haiti, that are now in London, that are now in Paris, and throughout the States, and that have started to have really influential position. And we're trying to now get these positions to be beneficial to the Haitian community, both abroad and in Haiti. So I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. I think there are great opportunities laying ahead. And so far, people have also been able to influence regulation and policies at their level. Lately, one anecdote I could tell you about is there was the voice over IP gate, where a company in Haiti, a major carrier, said that they would block voice over IP apps because they consider they're losing revenue on international money. And when the Haitian community in Haiti and abroad, who were both affected by that, decided to strike back by protesting, by starting to petitioning, and really expressing their anger, they had to back down. So basically, we're seeing the birth of this influence, of this articulated community, but we just need to be more organized.
Like the Mexican embassy, the Philippine embassy and its 7 consulates general in the United States have been working closely with NGOs to address issues involving the Filipino diaspora here in the United States. We've worked with NGOs and the U.S. government in immigration reform issues, including DACA. We've worked with them on human trafficking and also on humanitarian issues. In addition to NGOs, we've also partnered with the private sector. And as I have been mentioning earlier on, we partnered with Onginao last year. We were approached immediately after Typhoon Haiyan struck the Philippines, and as most of you know, it was one of the most devastating storms that have hit the planet. They approached us to seek our assistance to link up Philippine broadcast stations. I think this is based on the experience of Haiti, where they would link the diaspora to home and put them in a position to assist. So we did, but we also did more than that. So based on the Call to Listen platform that they were offering Philippine broadcast stations, we saw an opportunity for the embassy to reach out to the diaspora here. So we asked them if they could do one for the embassy, and they did. And we launched what we call Radyo Tambuli in April. And we've been, as I've said, we've been reaching out to our community based on that, and we're developing that mobile app. And one critical function of that app is the ability for the diaspora to extend assistance to the Philippines using a donation platform. The Philippines is in the Pacific Ring of Fire, and we get struck by 20 typhoons every year. And with Haiyan being called the new normal, we expect to be hit by similar storms in the near future. So that's one example of a good partnership with the private sector, also taking into account the fact that we have very limited resources to be able to come up with our own virtual radio station. So I think that's a successful partnership that could also be copied by others.
Thank you. There's enormous potential for greater partnership and investment in the diaspora as individuals or through investment mechanisms and tools, funds in independent professional broadcasting in certainly in Africa, where I'm most familiar, but throughout the developing world. These are vibrant startups that have a huge following. You know, you look at the figures just for in radio in Luka in Central African Republic, 85% of the population is tuning in every day. So huge potential to engage the private sector in investment, and we really are just at the very beginning of that. And I think that that's something that I'd like to see. Certainly, we talk about this today being coming out with some actionable points, and I think coming up with some ideas on how to pursue greater investment as on an individual level from Diaspora, but also through investment funds into some of these independent, vibrant media that are being created around the world.
Right, we're actually exactly on time. I don't know how you do it, Lisa. We're going to open up to questions. We have about 25 minutes here. There are people streaming, watching online, so we're going to pass around microphones. So I'll call on someone and ask the hard questions, but make sure it's a question for our panelists. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Safili, a student of Dubai University, Antigua, and I'm from Sierra Leone, West Africa. I wish to express my profound thanks and appreciation to the organizers and for me to be part of this. International Diaspora Engagement Alliance. Ebola will finish. Children has to go back to school. I was the teacher before coming to this country. I taught chemistry during about 15 years. In 1961, the United States government was providing food for us when I was in elementary school. For 10 years, all the children went back to school. My question is for you. You have been in Africa, and you're in Africa. How will this organization help these children go back to school?
Thank you.
I'm still there. Yeah. How will they go back to school? Now we have Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea. The children should go back to school. And if the body and the mind is being fed, they say all the schools, all the primary schools, all the secondary schools children, they know that there is food. As during my own time, the soldiers were having food. So all of us knew that time in the 60s, in the 70s, as we hear that lunchtime, the bell rings. We all go back with our plate, we stand in the line. And we are well fed. The 12:30, we go back to class happy. We sing throughout the day because we are well fed. Now, Ebola, you go. But how will my brothers and sisters go back to school after the Ebola? I was a teacher, and I'm coming to this class to teach. But I noticed stroke. The children sit before me with a prayer so poor. But if food and all schools throughout Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, they have proper toilet facilities, this activity. So this is like, how are you going to help this? This is my question.
Thank you. Sierra Leone is very close personally to my own heart. I've spent 3 years setting up Cotton Tree News and still have a large staff in Sierra Leone. Just this morning I received news of the death of a colleague from Ebola who was a community health outreach person. We're really working around the clock to raise some funds for our operation in Guinea and in Sierra Leone. These are critical operations that need funds. Someone said to me yesterday, how can it be that you're looking for funds? There's so much money going towards Ebola. Well, very little has actually reached the operations on the ground. There's a huge disconnect there. And so it's something that has been a focus, very personally for me. I taught up at Fort Bay College. My children taught as volunteers in community schools throughout the country. So we're really familiar with the challenges of education, of educating the young people, of providing toilet facilities. It sounds kind of silly, but toilets in school are really important. You see a lot of girls dropping out at 14 because there are no separate toilets for them. So these are really important questions. As a as a media practitioner, we operate from the conviction that access to information can improve the lives of a population. It can give a population the tools to overcome post-conflict challenges, to development, and to address the challenges of their own social, economic, and political development and evolution. So that's, we play a small part, obviously, in a much larger sort of theory of change, but we do believe that access to information is critical for our population. We aren't there to tell people how to behave. We're there to provide the information and provide a platform for individuals, for civil society, for the elected officials to interact with the population in a way that helps really further a much more authentic democratic engagement within the population. In terms of perhaps addressing the Ebola and education as much as I can, I was in contact yesterday with the head of the Mass Communications Department at Fort Bay College. Our operation, we made a decision in Sierra Leone to build our radio at Fort Bay College. Fort Bay College is the oldest English-speaking university in sub-Saharan Africa. It was also, the scene of much sort of political unrest over the years. Sierra Leone is not unique in post-conflict countries in Africa in that it has a very young population. I think the average age is about 17 and a half. And we felt it was important to engage young people in this process and in building our media. So we actually built a media around young university students and young graduates. And it very quickly, within 4 months, became the most popular source of news in the country. So huge success, and I think we've been using the radio as a tool for education. A lot of students don't have access to secondary school, could only dream of attending the university in Sierra Leone, but are still trying to further their education. Many are farmers, some have their own little businesses, so we do a lot of programming around creating your business, accessing capital, agricultural processes, and so the radio has really become a tool to supplement the education. One of my dreams is to see that actually become a tool for younger students, and how can you further reading and so forth through the radio. So I'm sorry I can't answer all of your questions, but we are working in Sierra Leone and of course in neighboring Guinea. We were in Liberia since 1997. So our Huron Dallas really found itself at the center of the response to Ebola.
Thank you. I'm Annette LaVoy with Appleseed, and I appreciate the mention of many of you about the importance of remittances and the role they play back home. I wonder, we have new rights in the United States, new consumer protections for diaspora members who send money home that provide cost information and fee information up front, et cetera. So I wonder if you all could address if this information is getting to the diaspora and back home, and if this is, well, how we can speak through the media to inform both senders and receivers of the new consumer protections.
Well, I think this question resonates directly with the Haitian community, for sure. The reason is that it's the first time I hear about this, personally, and that is great. Right now, I know of a class action suit that some Haitians in Boston area, if I'm not mistaken, have intended against the Haitian government because basically, apparently, and from literature that was available about it, what the government of Haitian is doing by taxing the international remittance is considered to be, and I'll quote unquote it, racket. And what they're considering is because the tax has been levied without the approval from the parliament in Haiti, it has been done unilaterally, and still right now it's debated whether or not it it is legal to even have that tax on international remittances, has led of like the consideration of several class action suits against the Haitian government. Now, this kind of consumer protection would very likely be of use to the Haitian community in giving them kind of leveraging power, because I don't think, like, basically the Haitian community abroad is not against being taxed for education, which is the claim that has been made. The tax is initially for funding education, except that right now it goes into a black hole. Nobody knows what it's being done with the money. Nobody knows how it's handled, how it's managed, and not even the Haitian Parliament knows, because the Haitian Parliament would counter the executive branch in Haiti, a bit like Congress here would do with the executive. So it's definitely something that would be an extra tool to the Haitian community, or a very important tool, I should say, so that they can negotiate with the Haitian government as to what is being done with the money. We need accountability, where it's going, what it's doing with, and to know that the tax collected on the Haitian diaspora community is well utilized and is going to the proper destination.
Anyone else want to field that?
It's the first time I heard of it too. But as far as I know, that income earned by Filipinos abroad is not taxed. So when they send remittances, they just pay the transfer fee and that's it. So we'd like to know more about that and work with you there.
Wonderful.
You should leave some cards up here for us.
We actually have a very interesting arrangement directly with the Federal Reserve. We have a program with them called Diaspora Mexico, in which we are able to link practically our central banks in order for there to be much more assurance and security for the types of transactions that are sent. There were in the past situations in which private companies or just private businesses were not necessarily keeping their end of the bargain, and well, I guess the word would be stealing or withholding the funds from the migrants here. And there were a lot of transaction costs that were not implied, and I think that a lot of what we attempted to do was to not tell them this is the only one that you can use, but to tell them this is an option that has been arranged by both the U.S. and the Mexican government, and there are other options as well that you can use. A lot of course, very large commercial banks have developed very specific programs, I think, for remittances between the U.S. and other countries, Mexico being one of them. And we only just put to their attention that they need to be careful when they engage in these. So I think that it would be essential to transmit these type of informations to make sure that they are receiving them in Spanish, in our case particularly, because sometimes, even though there is still a lot of information already that is bilingual, not many of them reaches them as fast as we would like. So this, for me, would be perhaps another example of a very attractive and potential collaboration that we would have in a very also relevant subject for us. Thank you.
Great. I'm Amanda Bergson-Shokak from the Welcoming Center for New Pennsylvanians in Philadelphia. I have a quick answer and then a question. So the answer is that last year when the Consumer Financial Protection Board announced the new remittance protections, we did a bulletin to 8,000 immigrant subscribers in the Philadelphia region, letting them know of these new resources in English, French, Spanish, Tagalog, and Chinese. So my question is what the consulates, particularly the Mexican and Filipino consulates that are represented on stage here, are doing to interact with the community-based organizations that are key intermediaries to reach immigrant communities.
Well, if I may, I think that one of the things that we joke while working at a consulate is pretty much saying that we work from Monday to Sunday, and we really don't have any type of time off, because there is always something that can be done. And and projects like the one that you described are fit exactly to the type of activities that we want to do, and the type of information that we want to pass along our community networks. So in this case, what we would practically do is to ensure that type of information is at the consulate. These are things that even though we do need to run them by our central offices, when there is information that is not necessarily advertising a private business, we are able to have it there. We can also discuss it through the particular media channels that each consulate has, which can be also through a radio station, through a local community magazine or newspaper, and of course also through their Twitter and their Facebook accounts. And to make sure that also in community events or in activities where we are inviting the community, perhaps for those type of organizations or offices to be present. I had a fantastic experience with these type of things when I was in Los Angeles, and we were able to really host very eclectic information fairs from everything that you could imagine, even to sports, and of course where you could get maybe Zumba classes, because health is so important. But it was very great to see that many of us we want the information to give our community, and these partners have it, and they're wanting to see how they transmit it. So I think that is the reason why we are become natural allies in order to pass this information here. So we're happy to know that is occurring at that particular city. Thank you.
We will do basically the same as the Mexicans would. In addition, we have regular interactions with the Filipino community in the Metro DC area, as well as our consulates U.S.-wide. In addition to that, we have regular outreach programs where we send a consular team to other areas of the United States under our jurisdiction. So we regularly engage our community, and we could amplify information that they would need to make them better informed.
Hi, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon already. I'm Marini from Malaysia. I'm from a government agency that looks at the talent agenda for Malaysia, and one of the functions that we do is to engage with the Diaspora board. We're not like Philippines or Mexico, where we have a lot of almost 10% of populations abroad. We have about 4% of our Malaysians abroad. And I just want to get some, perhaps from Vanessa and Alma, about your experience. I know Alma mentioned about you provide content for materials and content for communities here. And because you're from the government agency, and I'm the same as well, one of our challenges is to be perceived to remain neutral. In terms of the content that we provide. More often than not, our diaspora here have different political opinions than those back home. So usually the news or the information that they find from the media and the news are politically inclined. So I was just wondering, how do you remain neutral when you provide those content and material? And do you use a third party to do that, or do you think that you just providing content would suffice? My second question is about investment and funding. I know a lot of the panelists spoke about investment and funding. In Malaysia, even though we're neighbors to Philippines, I think we're blessed that we don't have any natural disasters. So not a lot of the funds and investments coming inwards to Malaysia are based on humanitarian funds. So we're looking more to find a common interest where the nations abroad could then pull out some funds or investment funds to perhaps do startups, or startups is big in Malaysia now. Innovative startups as well as social entrepreneurship. So from your experience, from the panelists, I know usually the government agencies that look at investments are usually the big ticket projects. and not so much on individual diasporas. So how do you get, to organize the diaspora community in order to come up with perhaps a platform or a fund that everyone can commit to, seem like invested.org is trying to do, but then you're more on the global thing, but this is more on the diaspora perhaps platform. Have you done that before? And if you have, can you just share it with us? Thank you so much. 2 questions.
I can quickly take it. I'll start with the second question. We actually do have a program. It's a very exciting program, and unfortunately, I think the time will allow me to explain it further. But it's a program that was developed almost 10 years ago called 3x1, 3 times 1. So this program basically works through the coming together of members of a particular community, hometown associations, which are some of the main nuclear community diaspora actors in the United States for here from Mexico. So many of these hometown associations were getting together to organize social or cultural events, to raise funds and send it back to their communities in Mexico to assist in reconstructing a hospital or a school or some other type of necessity. And they were doing this out of their own initiative. So what we were able to do as a government was to then assist them in channelizing those funds into a greater investment and to provide them also additional resources for these type of projects. So the name 3 times 1, it sounds weird to say it in English. The purpose of this is to basically tell you, as a hometown association, let's say that you raise $2,000. The program will then match those funds. The local authorities, the state authorities, and the federal authorities will match the amount that you raise, and then you will then have a larger amount, even though technically it's not 3 times 1, it's actually 4. It's a matching funding program sponsored by the government. So, and this occurs through our National Development Social Ministry. And this has been impressive in the results that it's had. This is one of the programs that I was able to implement a lot in Los Angeles, and it also worked a lot to bring the community together and to organize them. Because once they started to see that the projects that they wanted to fund were the ones that were able to fund, the government only provides the funding, and the technical expertise, but it's in this case the migrants, the hometown associations that decide where they want to invest their money. There is a lot of information I can actually share with you. We work a lot with the UN and with the Inter-American Development Bank for that. So it's been a very successful program for us. We have to work together, which also makes it a very, very strong, important program to us, because they are the ones that come together and that approach us and telling us, in my particular community, I want to, for instance, open another health clinic. And we simply let them know what the regulations are in terms of in a very bureaucratic manner, what is the paperwork that they need to follow to file. And once they have the resources, then they are the ones actually in charge of the program, but they have to do it with us. But they're the ones that have more control of the project. So this is also another example that we have shared in the sense of how we work together and how migrants do actually work with the 3 levels of government in Mexico. And there have been some very fantastic results with that program.
For our radio station in the embassy, we tried to limit it to content that, only good news. We try to avoid political stories. We also try to give focus to stories that would unite the Philippine diaspora, like the ongoing issues in the South China Sea, for instance. We try to keep them abreast of developments taking place there so that they would know what's happening. In terms of the materials that we send out to Philippine American media and also Philippine-based media, we try to be objective as much as possible when we present the news. We write it the way a reporter would, so that when he sees it, he immediately knows there's a story there, and he would just rewrite it a bit. So we also try to avoid hard sell. So it's not propaganda once they get it. So that's how we've been doing it.
Could I actually mention that very quickly, because it would be important for me to mention that. As embassies and consulates, we're completely apolitical. So we are not able to engage in any type of political debate. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs represents the current administration, but not the political party. So
I understand we have the same thing as well, but the perceived thing from the diaspora here is that when it comes from the embassy, it has to be skewed to one opinion. So to find that neutrality, I was just wondering, how you guys do it. I understand that you're apolitical, but
no, I would say that it's a tough question, and I understand what you mean. I think that a lot of what I've seen, for instance, when I worked in a consulate, is basically the trust that you're able to establish with your community, and that the type of activities or the programs, for instance, that we want to bring them has no type of gain whatsoever for us, but to assure that they have a better quality of life and that they are more empowered or whatever to continue to find their integration in the current communities. But I can understand that it's a complicated one, and it's not necessarily an easy one as well, especially when elections come around, and for instance, Mexicans are able to vote abroad, and they're the ones that actually become very, very political. We just stand back. but yeah, that's a tough one.
I think we are exactly on time here again, so I think Liesel's tight ship is run its course here. Liesel, do you want me to say anything in terms of, I would like to thank the panel, and I'd like to thank the audience as well.